This is the Anbernic RG Nano. Can you even see this thing? When I ordered it from Anbernic's website, I was already preparing this script in my head. It's basically a $70 keychain, and it's more novelty than necessity. And the bottom line is, while those statements are still true, after spending some time with the Nano, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't love it just a little bit. I could open this review by stating the obvious fact that the RG Nano is tiny. After all, it's a quality the device wears proudly. Anbernic decided to go beyond small, beyond mini even, and instead landed on nano, a descriptor for size not often used, but one that perfectly fits Anbernic's latest offering. Unfortunately, it was this pursuit of extreme portability that kind of tarnished a device with such high potential. The RG Nano is simply too small for my probably smaller than average 34-year-old man hands. It's too small for anyone's hands. At this scale, I say the RG Nano makes for a perfect oversized arcade cabinet for Lego people, but for us normal-sized people, any kind of extended play sessions just aren't gonna happen, which is a shame because I love the feel of this thing. The anodized aluminum shell is thick and heavy, and just looks really handsome. The buttons feel surprisingly good, especially the shoulder buttons, which are super clicky. And the D-pad isn't too bad either. It's pretty tight and doesn't seem to have any of the input issues that plagued my RG35XX. If Anbernic would just make us an aluminum RG35XX, or even just double the size of the RG Nano, and get closer to the Miu Mini, maybe add a few more shoulder buttons for PS1 games and a Wi-Fi chip, while keeping it all under or around $100, man, we'd be closing in on the perfect handheld. Like every other Anbernic device, the Nano comes pre-installed with a bunch of stolen ROMs, which is really illegal, and they don't even have the decency to organize them alphabetically. And just like the RG35XX, the Nano can play up to PS1 games, but unless you have an uncontrollable desire to play Densha de Go, I'd avoid PS1 for the most part. Even 16-bit games aren't ideal on the Nano. It's just not powerful enough to handle demanding 16 and 32-bit titles. The 1-to-1 square ratio of the 1.5-inch screen means that most games will either be stretched, cropped, or scaled down to fit an already tiny screen. However, this screen is actually pretty good for Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. The 1-to-1 ratio means that you can play these games without too much compromise, and the visual complexity of Game Boy games oh my cat. Oh boy. And the visual complexity of Game Boy games look the most at home on a screen like this. And while it doesn't feel great to play anything on a device this small, the simplicity of Game Boy and Game Boy Color games make them feel at least okay on the Nano. So yeah, if you love games like Tetris or Yoshi's Cookie, the Nano provides a decent experience. But if you were hoping to bust out some Shoryukens in Street Fighter 2, just don't do it. Just forget it. Now, as someone who's coming from Garlic and Onion OS, it was pretty easy to dislike the operating system on the Nano. Every time you turn on the device, you're met with this annoying analog clock screen, and the default launcher just looks pretty gross. Thankfully, you can change the launcher to something that looks a lot more appealing, but it still doesn't have the same feel and functionality as one of Black Seraph's custom operating systems. Apparently, there are some people working on customizing the firmware, but I'm just going to hold out until Black Seraph gets Garlic OS or some other custom solution working on the RG Nano. As much as I would love to wax philosophically about how the Nano just oozes nostalgic appeal and is a game changer in the realm of emulation handhelds, it's really just a $70 keychain. I mean, they even included a keychain attachment right here in the box. And while it would be pretty cool to pop this onto my keys or hook it onto a bag, I'm just way too OCD to let the screen or aluminum shell get all scratched up and destroyed by my keys or something. So yeah, it's not even a great $70 keychain. But I think the RG Nano is cool. And despite how negative this review sounded, like I said in the opening, I do still love it, even if it's definitely more novelty than necessity.